Hello and welcome. I'm Debbie Danford from craftyourcreations.blogspot.com. Now, today you don't see a stamp set in front of me or even a card because today what I'm going to do, I had a request to show you how to make watercolor backgrounds. And I might have done this in some other videos somewhere along the way, maybe stamping at the same time. But this one is going to be all about making watercolor backgrounds. And we might do some spritzing and maybe even a little blending. We'll see how time goes with all of that because I don't want it to take too long. These are just some from another time when I was like stamping with something. I don't even know what. I tend to have watercolor backgrounds made up and then I'll pull them out sometimes when I'm looking for one. Because when I start making them, I just make a whole bunch all at once and let them dry and then I go from there. So today we are going to strictly make some watercolor backgrounds. And we're going to do some on basic white and on watercolor paper. I have several colors out here, and I don't even know if we're going to use them all, and I don't even have a plan as to what I'm going to put together yet. We're just going to go with the flow. So just to let you know what colors I've pulled, and as we go through it all, then I will, make sure I tell you what I'm using. And I'm going to try and keep notes myself as I make them so that when I go back and turn them into cards, which is going to probably be Thursday's video, will be the cards turned into, or the watercolor backgrounds turned into cards. So we have Daffodil Delight, Petunia Pop, Fresh Freesia, Highland Heather, Peach Pie, Calypso Coral in that particular stack. I grabbed Granny Apple Green, Lemon Lime Twist, Melon Mambo, Puppy Parade, Strawberry Slush, and Pretty in Pink. And then Pool Party, Misty Moonlight, Balmy Blue, Timid Tiger, Darling Duckling, Summer Splash, and Shy Shamrock I pulled in. I don't use these two very much. That's why I decided to pull them in and just see what I could come up with. What you want first is a clean surface. I like using our, let me see if I can move this down just a little bit. I like using our glass mat. If you don't have a glass mat, a craft mat, wax paper works too if you don't have a craft mat. I cleaned it really good first because one thing I did notice is that when you are doing watercolor backgrounds, if your surface is dirty, you will pick up stuff from it. So I did do that first. And then of course you just want a spritzer of water. Now you can use alcohol if you want. It will dry quicker. I usually hence it's called watercolor backgrounds. I tend to use water with these. Okay, so we're going to start with my favorite color palette in blues. Now you have two options here. You can stamp these directly. Hang on, this one feels like it's going to pop out any minute now. There we go. You can stamp directly on your glass mat with these. You can also use ink refill drops. I don't know if we'll end up pulling those in and using any today. It'll depend on what kind of color we might need to add. I saw a little spot there. But I'm going to do it this way. So what I do, and I'm going to start with, we're going to use the 3 blues right here first. I'm going to start, and we might add a little bit of yellow as we go. We'll see. I'm going to start with Pool Party, and I'm just going to stamp a Pool Party down. And then I'm going to go Balmy Blue. And you can overlap them if you want. I wouldn't overlap, like I wouldn't stamp Misty Moonlight down and then overlap with Pool Party because you would pick up that dark. But when I always start lighter to darker. And then I'm going to go like that. Okay, so there's those 3. Then what we're going to do is a little bit of spritzing here. And you see how all that starts to kind of blend together. Now, I'm going to start with a piece of watercolor paper. I grabbed a whole pack. The packs come folded with a piece over the top here, but this inside is still watercolor paper. So I go ahead and cut that little fold off, and then I still use this piece. You have lots of options on ways to do it. I've seen people where they kind of just tip it in like this, pick up some ink, look at what's going on, pick up a little bit more ink. see if they like it. You can also spritz your paper first so that it's a little bit wet. Okay, and do this. Whoa, preferably not drop it like I just did, but that's okay. And if you feel like it's not wet enough, spritz it a little more. Okay, so there's a start. There's one. I kind of like what we have going on there. I have a spot right behind me that I am just laying them down on to dry. Now, unfortunately, I dropped it, so I added more ink over here, but we still have plenty here. So what I'm going to do is grab a smaller sheet of basic white. Now remember, basic white doesn't soak up water as well, so it will work. You just have to play with it a little bit. I spritzed it, maybe a little bit too much, we'll see. This time I'm just going to lay it down and let it kind of soak up what we have left here. And it's okay if you get bleed over on the back of it. It doesn't matter because you're not going to see it or use that back side anyway. Ooh, see, a little bit different effect here. It's always amazing as to what you see going on here when you pick up color, okay? And it will curl, but you know what? In the end, we can flatten them all out. Because once they dry, if they're curled up still like that, which usually they'll end up drying flat, you can just put them under something heavy and it will dry them out. Okay, I'm laying that one over there. Okay, so those three were the three blues. Then I'm just going to bring my paper towel in. Because I spread it out so much, I probably could have got one more out of it, but I kind of spread it out when I dropped it. So now I am going to use a couple blues, and then we're going to add a yellow to it. So I'm thinking I'm going to go Pool Party and Misty Moon, Pool Party and Daffodil Delight, and then we'll add our Misty Moonlight. Now Daffodil Delight's a little bit darker, and you can like tap it a little bit like that if you want to add some yellow in some other places, okay? And then we're just going to add that. I'm going to do a little bit over there, kind of like that. Nothing major, okay? And we're going to do some more spritzing. Now, if you're worried about when you're spritzing that you're getting it in places you don't want, you know, grab a piece of your grid paper and kind of hold it up. Ooh, I think we're going to get some good color combination going on here. Okay, there's that. And again, I'm going to spritz. I'm going to start with a piece of watercolor paper. Whoops. I had the spritzer in the wrong direction there. Okay. And I could tell I missed that spot down here. And again, you can drag it, you can plop it down here, you can do it any which way you want. I tend to just plop it down. I've seen where people kind of do the little curly thing and then they don't cover the whole thing. If you don't want to cover the whole thing, that is a great way to do it. And I'll show you that here in just a second. Now let's see what this one does. Ooh, of course, you know, blue and yellow make green, so we've got some greens going on. Oh, I already am thinking about what I'm going to stamp on this one. Isn't it funny how when you make one, you're like, ooh, I know what I can do with that. So let's pull in. And as I'm touching these, yes, my fingers are a little wet. Okay, now this time, I'm just going to do a little bit of this. See what we can get going on here. And you do, actually I'm picking it up more than I don't do well with trying to partially do watercolor to it. I do blending better with that myself. Okay. All right, so I'm laying all these out. Now I have enough left here. I'm going to do one more with the white. Just going to use the white. And I'm going to kind of drag some of this yellow around here. pick up that, and then I'll dip it in the what's left there of the blue. I'm going to see what we've got here. So different. And there's that one. Looking good. Okay. So there's that color palette. Now, let's move on out of our blue colors here. I am going to keep the yellow out. Let's move on to, how about, actually what I wanted to do, I wanted to try, we're going to do some pinks. Not normally my color palette, but I've been kind of playing with pinks and purples here lately. So let's see. How about, I'm going to try Daffodil Delight. I'm going to put a little bit all over. And then let's do Strawberry Slush. We're just going to do these two. We're going to see what this does. Now, you have to be careful. Sometimes you can end up with a very muddy looking color if you're not careful about what colors you've put together here. Ooh, these two might be awesome. We'll see. Okay, remember that was just Daffodil Delight and Strawberry Slush. And wherever I hold it, of course, it's a dry spot. Ooh, I like how those blended together too. I am just going to lay that down and see what we come up with. Ooh, looks like sherbet kind of, but I like it. Okay, that was Strawberry Slush and Daffodil Delight. Okay. Now I have enough ink here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of basic white. And I'm going to show you how some people like to do it. They like to, I don't know why I get the whole thing covered. I've seen where people can just get a little dab in the center, but everybody does it different. I'm going to pick up some of that yellow. Okay, we're just dragging it. Now, this is not about staying clean, that's for sure. Your hands are going to get very inky. Now, these pieces are 4 by 5 1/4, and I will probably end up trimming them down. Okay, I'm just laying them out over there. All right, that was Strawberry Slush and Daffodil Delight. Let's try okay, stack that one. I'm kind of let's do some greens. How about, well, along with yellow. Well, you know what? Let's bring in Darling Duckling this time instead. It's a little bit darker yellow, so let's see what this one does. I'm going to do it like that this time. And then we're going to go Lemon Lime Twist, which is a little bit lighter. It's a green, but it's on the yellow-green spectrum. Okay? And then we'll do some Granny Apple Green. Let's just do some greens going on here and see what we can... Ooh, this one might need re-inking. That's why I'm not getting a whole lot out of here. All right. We'll go with that for right now, and then we'll kind of spritzing down low here so I'm not getting... We just got a lot of greens and yellows going on there, so I'm not sure how this one's going to turn out, but... Oh, shoot. I forgot to spritz my paper first. I'll just spritz from the back just a little bit, because then it's not so dry. But I'm going to leave it down there just a little bit longer since I forgot to spritz it first. It'll still work. It just takes it a little bit longer to soak it all up because it's not wet ahead of time. Ooh, not bad. Not as dark as I was thinking, but I do like it. Again, you just never know what you're going to come up with. Now, let's lay this over here. Okay, that was lemon lime twist, our greens. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to do something here, and I'm going to add a little bit of Summer Splash. Now, I'm being very careful here because there is water down here, and you're going to pick that up a little bit. But then all you have to do is wipe this off with your a paper towel. Mine's kind of wet. You could wipe it off with a dry paper towel. I don't mind experimenting with my stuff. If you didn't want to dip your ink pad down in here, you easily could have just put a couple drops of the ink refill and then spritzed it a little more to spread it out. I had a little bubble there. Oh, I forgot to spritz it again. But as you see, it does work when you don't spritz it, the paper. But I feel like you get better results. Well, I wouldn't say better results. It's just different results, I guess. Kind of helps a little bit that you're getting it wet on the background or on the back of it. I leave it down longer when you forget to spritz your paper. Next time, let's not forget. Ooh, now very pastel-y because we're getting into the second version of this, so it's much lighter. And the nice thing is when you pick it up, you can kind of tilt your paper, move your color around a little bit. There, I like that one. Okay. There we added Summer Splash. I'm kind of keeping my stacks up over here. That way I kind of know what I've done. At least for now, anyway. All right. Because it is very hard to keep track once you get going with all of these. And I'm going to need a new paper towel here. Okay. Now, let's do, grab a paper towel so I have a fresh one. Let's do some Petunia Pop, Fresh Freesia, Highland Heather. And then we may, after we do these three, we then may add yellow. Yellow's always a good color to add with a lot of color combinations because it can change that color very easily. Okay, so that was Highland Heather, Fresh Freesia. I should have started with Fresh Freesia, which is what I grabbed at first. And now Petunia Pop's going to be a little bit darker. Okay, let's spritz this up. You can see how the colors start to morph together there. Woo, that's really cool. Okay, this time I'm going to remember to spritz. And I just dropped it down there. I'm going to spritz the back just a little bit. Ooh, I like. What do you guys think? Now, if you're watching this before I've done the next video making cards, and you see some of these backgrounds, tell me what you think I should be stamping on them. I have some ideas, but it's always nice to hear what other people, what their suggestions are. Sorry, I'm looking for more places to dry. As some of them start to get dry, I can stack them, but I don't like to stack them until I know they're, because otherwise the colors bleed. Okay, now I'm just pulling in a piece of basic white. And I may pull in some of my other watercolor pieces that I have set aside that I've done before to stamp on too. We'll see. Dark. That one's just very dark, which it's okay. It's more of the Petunia Pop. All right. I mean, I could probably... I was thinking I might do one more. Here, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in Darling Duckling, and I'm just going to drop, because this is so wet now, I'm just going to drop a couple drops. Okay, this is the ink refill for Darling Duckling. And we're just going to use a piece of basic white. And I'm going to add a little bit more water. I want that to, there we go. I wanted that to spread just a little bit more because I didn't like that little blop like in the center. There we go. Now, I do have a lot of water on there right now, but that's okay. We're going to see what happens here with that. Pretty. So different. I'm having to get more paper out. I just use old grid paper from classes that I've saved. I have enough left here. I'm going to go ahead and do one more on here. It's going to be much lighter, but that's okay. I knew I could probably get one more out of it. Now, if you still have some of our shimmer white paper that we used to carry, that paper was perfect for doing this kind of background watercoloring. It soaked up the water and the ink so nicely. Oh, I miss that paper so much. Okay. Now, that was those three colors. Let's see. What else do we have left? Okay, let's do some. So that was these. Let's do, well, we'll put a little bit of orange down, or sorry, yellow down first, and then let's put some peach pie. This will be more like a fall color probably. And let's try the Timid Tiger. All right. And then let's spritz here. And let's bring in our piece of watercolor paper. Whoops, that spritzed right in my face. Okay. This will be interesting. I have to say, I don't know that I've done like these colors right here together, but I think we're going to have a nice, ooh, I like it. Okay, that's that. And let's bring in one of the basic white pieces then, and we'll kind of soak up some of what we've still got going on here. again. Ooh, I know which one I'm going to use on that. I'm trying to think if I want to do one more. It'll be a little bit lighter. Again, I'm thinking a minute. I have some spritzers here. This one has Misty Moonlight. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to this. We're going to see what happens. This may get like really muddy. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm only using a piece of paper here. It's not the end of the world. It's not millions of dollars that I've just invested right here. It's just some paper. That one soaked up a lot. There's a lot of water out here. Let's see what that one did. Not liking that one so much. That one might not make it, but you never know. Once it dries and you kind of look at, see, the more I add some more color to it, because you never know. It's not my favorite, but you just never know what's going to happen in the end once it's dry. Okay, now I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to do a little, I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of, with the refill, the misters, and just spritzing versus putting all your ink down here. All right. And I didn't use every color I had out here today, but that's okay. I may come up with some more color combinations. You never know. All right. When you are going to just use spritzers like this, and I have 3 of them here. I have, because I used these in a different class, I used, this is Misty Moonlight, this is Darling Duckling, and then this one I just added, and it's Strawberry Slush. And you lightly, not soak it like we were doing before, lightly spritz that, and then all we're going to do is just spritz onto our paper. And I'm going to start with the yellow. Now, when you mix refill drops with water like this, like I put 2 or 3 drops in each one of these, it's going to be much lighter. The more drops you put in, the darker it will get. So keep that in mind as to how dark you might want this. Now, you only have so much control. Unlike blending, where you, or with a blending brush, you have a lot more control. You don't have as much control. Like, we can try and spritz in a certain spot, but it's going to, you know, blend a little bit because it is wet. So there's a spritzed piece. And I would almost be tempted just to, whoops, lightly go over it a little bit more. There. I like that. Okay. I got to get a different sheet out to lay down to dry. I think that first set is, so there's one that spritzed a little bit. Different effect. Okay. And now let's clean this up. And now let's do a little bit of spritzing on just a piece of basic white. This time I'm going to use the Darling Duckling, the yellow I have mixed up, and Strawberry Slush. And I've not used this one yet, so we'll see what... Looks like cotton candy. Okay, totally different effect. Wasn't sure what I was going to get there. Now let's try I'm going to do Strawberry Slush. And you could mix up as many of these as you want. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of blue the Misty Moonlight with it and see what we get here. We're going to let that one dry. Different. That's why I say you get different effects from everything you do here. All right. I'm trying to think if there's any other color combination that we maybe didn't. I mean, there's lots of color combinations we didn't necessarily try, but I think that gives you an idea of how to make your watercolor backgrounds. And like I said, here's one I did the spritzing with. I embossed it first. I haven't turned these into a card. This was from a class I did. My sunflower bonus class for my monthly club, which I think I'm going to offer for everybody, but I haven't got it out there yet. But it was spritzing on watercolor paper. And that was just the Misty Moonlight and the Darling Duckling. But I turned it into something gorgeous. I don't have it right here in front of me, or I'd show you. You know what? Another thing you can do. Here, I have a piece right here. So like here's a piece of embossed. This is from the Impressions of Bloom embossing folder. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But we're going to experiment because I had a piece sitting here. I just spritzed it just a little bit. And I'm just going to spritz it with a little bit of yellow, the Darling Duckling. And then I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of Strawberry Slush. And just see what that does. Now, I don't know what it's going to look like when it dries. I've not usually I don't spritz. I blend on embossed pieces, but we'll see what it looks like. We'll see what I do with it afterwards. All right. So that's how I do watercolor backgrounds. And like I said, there are so many different ways that people do it. I'm not going to say mine's right, wrong. It's however you want to do them. And I didn't do any blending on any of these. We just literally were using our glass mat and ink pads and spritzers and making some beautiful watercolor backgrounds. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close off for today. And then I will be back on back on Thursday with some cards to show you that I have made with these watercolor backgrounds. And if you watch this on Tuesday or Wednesday, put comments out there if there's a suggestion as to what you might want, what stamp set you might want me to use on some of those backgrounds. And hopefully I've got my color palettes all stacked up here so I know what's what, who's who in the zoo, I guess you could say. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. And please don't forget to like, follow, and share. I truly appreciate everybody that has been following me. My count has been growing substantially, which I am so thrilled with, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And I will see you again on Thursday. Bye, guys.